Okay, so let's start. Hi everyone. So this is Shobna here, and hi Sanjay sir. I think you will remember me or maybe not.
Yeah, I do, Shona. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you,
Okay,
sir?
I'm fine.
Okay, okay. So the topic of today's webinar will be Angular, as Angular is based on TypeScript framework. So basically, in every industry, they are putting much pressure on TypeScript language and on Angular. So let's start with the. I'll just present my screen. Just tell me if you can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, it is visible, Shona.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. So let's start. Okay. So first, let's start with what is Angular. Angular is a framework to build client-side applications, and it is especially great for any single-page applications. Now, what are single-page applications? Sometimes you might notice that for some pages, like the entire page does not get refreshed. So those are single-page applications which get refreshed asynchronously. All right. Now another point is why you should learn Angular rather than any other JavaScript framework. See, JavaScript frameworks are also good, but every feature has its own pros and cons, right? So, like I prefer Angular because by design, Angular has a modular approach, which you will get to know once I will start a project, and you will see that Angular follows a very modular approach. A very everything is segregated and separated routing. It has a separate routing module. It has separate components in which you can render your HTML, and you have a separate file for writing your logic for rendering those HTMLs. And another, so as it has a modular approach, you can reuse the code usability is there. And another point is it has a lot of inbuilt capabilities, like I already said, that like routing module is already created, so you can route your so like the pages. And another thing is, which in industry, like for like whenever we used to develop any um, projects in colleges, we generally did not put any pressure on unit testing. But in industry, it's literally very necessary. Like they always pressurize us to write unit tests and to check the sonar coverage and everything. So in Angular, like there is a separate file, that spec.ts file, which automatically gets generated, and in that you can write your unit testing. Okay. And another main uh, advantage of Angular is that like Angular is a product of Google, all right, and it makes use of TypeScript language. So as you can see that it's a product of Google, so you know that it's not going to go obsolete. It is here to stay. And the first Angular which like the first Angular which was released, the first version of Angular which was released was in 2010. It was Angular JS. Now, after that, in 2016, Angular version 2 was released, and from there, like started, the naming convention started as Angular 2. So Angular 1 is not there. It's Angular 1 is actually Angular JS, which by word, I don't know about Angular JS, but I think by word it means it relies on JavaScript framework. So after that, from Angular 2, it started moving to TypeScript. Now, in each year, like recently, Angular 10 got released, and I remember that in in the beginning of this year, in January or February, Angular 9 was released, and now even Angular 10 got released. So like every every year, almost two versions of Angular is being released. Like upgradation of Angular is always happening. Okay. Okay, before this environment setup, now if you ask that maybe this is a hazard, maybe this is a disadvantage, because for Angular, like suppose I am writing code in Angular 10, and after 3 years it gets upgraded to Angular 14 or 15, whatever it is. So if my code breaks, or if my application breaks, then what's going to happen? So no need to worry. It's nothing like that, because Angular is always backward compatible. So you don't have to worry about it, which means that there will be no severe change that your entire application will break. Yeah, maybe like they might change some files, which some dependencies, some Angular dependencies, they might change those locations or the file names, but nothing drastically will change that your entire application will break. Okay. So let's start into environment setup. Now, the first main thing is you need to install Node.js. So install Node.js from https nodejs.org. Open this link and install the latest stable release. Now, once you install Node.js, npm, that is Node Package Manager, will also be installed automatically. So once installed, open CMD and type node -v and npm -v. So it will show us the versions of the node that you installed. Now, once you install Node.js, another thing which you need to install is Angular CLI, that is Angular command line interface. You need to see, you can move on without installing Angular CLI, but if you install Angular CLI, it it will help to generate building blocks of the applications by typing simple commands. So if you want to install Angular CLI, you open CMD and type npm install -g npm install -g @angular/CLI. Type this, and once it's installed, then type ng-v. It will give you the version of the Angular that's installed. Now, after installing this, install an editor. I prefer you all to install VS Code, okay, Visual Studio Code, which generally every Angular developer uses. But you can use any other editor that you feel like. But I recommend to use VS Code because it's more feasible and it's more advantageous to run Angular projects in VS Code. Okay, now as this is over, now let's open the VS Code. All right. Okay. So over here, wait, first let me close everything. All right. So at first, I already created this Angular folder. This Angular is just a folder. So I created this, and inside this, I already created Begin Angular. This is a new Angular project. Okay. So to create a new Angular project, you just over here, just write the command ng new. and the name of the project, suppose anything, test or anything, name of the project, and then hit enter. I have already created one because it really takes almost 10 to 15 minutes time to build a project, Angular project, because like you have to install those dependencies, and it also depends on your internet connection. If you have really fast internet connection, then maybe within 2 to 3 minutes your entire project will be created. All right. So once your project gets created, cd inside the project. Okay, now you are inside this project. Now inside this project you can see this node modules. This node modules contains all the dependencies that Angular needs, the Angular framework needs to run. So once it's created and your project is created to run, just run this command ng-serve. Right. You can also write npm start, which indirectly calls ng-serve, or you can write ng-serve directly. It really takes some time to actually run this. So just hold on. Okay, so it's successfully compiled, and here you can see that it's already given that open your browser on HTTP localhost 4200. Now, when you open your browser, localhost 4200, you can see your Angular app is running. Fine, it's up and running. So see, this is how simple it is to create an Angular project. Okay, now you have already created your Angular project. Now let's talk about the architecture and the framework. Okay, so like first, okay, before diving into framework, I will first talk about some files. The main important file is this package.json file. In this file, you can see every dependencies. Okay, over here you can see ng-serve, ng-build, ng-test, ng-lint. These are the commands. Okay, and over here you can see these dev dependencies. See, these are all the dependencies that is required for Angular application to run. Now after this, let's go to another file. I hope you'll remember that I said Angular follows a modular approach. Okay, so what does this model approach mean? This model approach means that once you create a project, Angular project, it will automatically have a module. Okay, now that module is known as the root module. So this app.module.ts, this is the root module which is automatically created, and another is a root component which is app.component.ts. This will also be automatically created. once you create your project. Now, another thing which I want you all to know is that Angular has a feature in which you can divide your web application into as many parts as you want. Like as per I am like as per the project that we are working on, it's like a project on a product, on a bank product. Okay, so that bank product has two variations, two sections. One is loan section, and one is pay section, and one is summary section. So these three sections, as Angular has a modular approach, what we did is that we put these three sections in three different modules. Okay, now we that means we have this root module, and inside this we have created another three modules. Inside another three modules, we have another all the components that is used to render our HTML files. Okay, so see, it totally depends upon you. You can in fact presume that your entire application is one single module without going for this structured division or the structured part, but as so that we can handle it easily, and for the code reusability, which is an advantage of Angular, so we go for a as much structured framework as we can. Okay, so first over here you can see this is the Angular module. This is a root module. In this root module, okay, wait, before this, let's talk about this main.ts. In this main.ts file, you will see that this bootstrap app module. So bootstrap it is kickstarting or this app module, which is the main module. So inside this main module, when you go, you will see that it is again bootstrapping or kickstarting this app component. Now inside this app component, if you go, you will see that this app component has this class app component, and this there is a title begin Angular. Now because we don't have any other components inside this app component, so this HTML app.component.html file, this one gets rendered. Okay, so the flow is, first when you run ng-serve, the first thing that Angular application does goes to this main.ts, kickstarts app module, it goes to this app module. Now in this app module, it kickstarts this app component. Now in this app component, whatever is written in this HTML, it gets rendered. All right, so after we spoke about this framework and how the control flows and everything, now I think we should create another component. All right. So once if we want to create a component, we have to write a command, that is ng, g, that is for generate, c for component, and give the name of the component, like any name, test. Okay. So okay, so you see that a test file is created, a test folder is created, rather not a file, a test folder is created, and inside this test folder you can see this test component.ts. This is the ts file that's created. Spec.ts, over here we write the unit testing code. All right, so this is not really necessary if you're doing any not any industry level application. If you're doing just any college level application, this is not necessary, so you can just delete it. This is independent, by the way, so you can just delete it. And over here, this is the HTML. In this HTML, we have a p tag, test works, and this is a CSS, which is right now blank. Okay, so first let's talk about these files, right? So this HTML file, this has the template. This .ts file, which has the class, that is a test component class. Over here, we write the logic. See, as you can see that this has this follows the concept of object oriented programming, right? Because you have the class and you have a way import, so you have to create objects and everything. So it generally creates it generally follows object oriented type of programming. Now, another thing is inside this .ts file, you can also write JavaScript file. All right, you can also write JavaScript code, but if you write JavaScript code, you have to just write JavaScript code and not any TypeScript code. All right, like you cannot do that half. I will write TypeScript code and then after that I will start writing JavaScript code. It's not like that. It throws an error. And another important part is a metadata. Now, what is a metadata? Now, metadata is an information which is necessary for Angular to know that a class, like this is a class, right? Test component is a class. So this class is actually not a TypeScript class, not a normal TypeScript class, rather than it's an Angular component. So the metadata is actually the decorators. See over here, if I hover, you can see this is the type decorator. Decorator that makes a class as an Angular component and provides configuration metadata that determines how the component should be processed, instantiated, and used at runtime. Okay. So if I go to this main.ts over here, you can see that there is no such metadata. So this is plain normal TypeScript class. All right. Okay. Okay. So this. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to render this that we created, right? So we can see this. We can see this test works. We can see this writing or this paragraph inside, it's inside the p tag, so we can see this in the HTML. So what we need to do is, this is a selector. So this selector, we can use this selector as a tag. All right, Angular gives us what to say, liability or that feature that these selectors, to render these files or these components, we can use these tags. All right, so where to use these tags? These tags you need to put inside this app.component.html. So over here, just write so once you are done, just save it, and once you save it, this gets automatically compiled. Okay, so this gets automatically compiled. See over here, you can automatically see that TestWorks is automatically rendered. It's so simple. So now, okay, so now like another thing is that how do you know that, see, another question that might pop into your mind is this test.component, this file is actually getting rendered, that's okay, but how is this app.component HTML, like where is the tag of app.component.html, because this is also an HTML file, right? Which, yeah, so this is also an HTML file, it also has a selector app root. So where is this tag, like where do you look for this tag? So this tag is inside this index.html. See, this index.html has this tag app root. As it has this tag app root, so you need not put your test tag inside this index.html file. Instead, you can put this inside app.component.html and it works fine. because this index.html, this renders the app component, and this app component indirectly renders its test component. See, it's the modular approach, the hierarchy, the framework that I told you about. Like this is what Angular is all about. Like it structures everything. It's a structured framework, so it's like a building block. It divides everything into smaller blocks, which is easier for you. So let me go to this. All right. So another thing is that instead of using this URL over here, suppose your template is just for 2 to 3 lines. So what you can do is instead of giving this path, you can write your HTML code. All right. So inside, suppose I'm giving this. And another thing is this here I'm using this backticks. So because we can write multiple lines of code. If backtick was not given, then there would have been error. Like every time we would have to use that single apostrophe as we write different lines of code. But this backtick helps you to write multiple lines of code. All right. So over here inside this div, if I write inline template, okay? Inline template, right. See, it changed. All right, it's now inline template. So same way, in fact, even for URLs also, suppose you give here a class, normal class is equal to right, all right, and style URLs. Style URLs. Right here. Okay. Yeah, just like this. Generally don't use this inline thing, so getting a little bit confused over here. Red, so color, put here, suppose red. All right. Hope I'm syntactically correct. So, yeah, see, it changed. We got. So this is known as inline templates. Okay, this is inline templates, inline style sheet. This is how you can do it. And another thing which I want to suppose in our not like what to say, in everyday, not in everyday, suppose in everyday applications or in real world, in real life applications, what happens is that, like in our applications, what we are doing from the microservice, it hits the Mongo, and from the Mongo there are some responses and some JSON, which is actually we have to, those JSONs we actually have to render it on our templates. We have to show those JSON files, those data that are coming from those JSONs on the HTML file. So how we do that is we create a service. Okay, so those things I'm not going through, because before creating a service you need to know many more stuff, like how from this come from HTML, how from HTML you can send values to the .ts file, and how from .ts file you can send values to .html. One thing that I can show you is how to send values from .ts file to HTML. Okay, so what we do is that like we call those services. Now those services, they hit those JSONs, they subscribe those JSONs, they get the value from those JSONs, and then what we do is that we do interpolation. Now those, after subscribing those JSONs, we uh, we actually, what we do after subscribing to those JSONs, we store those values into some properties, of our .ts file. Okay, like let's show you an example. Suppose if I open, okay, yeah, suppose if I open this app.component, over here you can see that title is equal to begin angular, right? Now this title is equal to begin angular, like this is a property that I was talking you about. Okay, so this can be assigned to a value that is actually being rendered from the microservices, like from the JSON that is being provided by the microservice. So over here, just giving a static value, begin angular. So if you change this, not change, let me put another, okay, wait, let me take this and so, um, suppose over here, I write name is equal to webinar. All right. So over here, I created a variable name. Now name or a property. See, it's a property. And see over here, the most interesting part is that in you don't need to specify the type. It automatically gets specified. Like it automatically gets specified as string. This is the same if you have worked with Python. This is the same even for Python. You don't need to specify any data type. So same goes for, you can specify the data type. Like I can do here, there is a data type that is name is any. All right, you can specify like this, but instead of that, if we just use this, then it's fine. So over here, it's already getting specified that it's a string. Now how to show this? For showing this, you need to do interpolation. So for interpolation, okay, oh sorry, we are using inline template. So inline template, let's write name. All right, so let's see if it works. See, welcome to webinar. So whatever is in your .ts file or in your logic file, it gets rendered. All right. So now another thing is that you can also send from this .html file to the component file, not this HTML, like the test.html. From this test.html file to test.component.ts file. So to do that, like generally when we need it when we are using any input tag, right? Like suppose here we want sorry. Okay, so in user is equal to name. So you're putting this input tag, and type. Let's so you're giving this input tag over here. So you need this data to be collected in your logic file, in your .ts file, right? Because you need to do some logic, so you need to work on that data. So how do you do that? You can do that by using hash um, temp ref. What is this? This hash temp ref, this is known as the template reference. This is the template reference variable. Now this template reference variable, you can use it in you can use this template reference variable in this file to proceed with your logic building, with your further works, right? So okay, think all right. So anyone, I think. Hold on a second. Let me see whether I covered everything or not. Okay, so this what I am trying to do for with this webinar is that, like, I'm just giving you an introductory class. Okay, because Angular is really vast, it cannot be covered within this few minutes. So just introductory class so that you know how, like, how the framework works, how everything goes, so that the next classes should be easier for you all. Okay, so that's why, like, this is just an introductory kind of a session. So anyone has any kind of questions? If anyone has any question, you can ask. Okay, all right. I hope no one is having. Uh, who only. All right. So before moving on, can you all please fill up the forms that is given in the chat, that feedback form. Okay, just fill up that. Take some time and just fill up it. All right. So,
Shona, I think someone has asked you in the comment section. Can I please go through that?
who that Node.js. Okay, what do you want to know about Node.js? Like, see over here, what we are doing, we are using the Node.js framework. Okay, and because we need npm, that is the Node Package Manager, we need that command. Actually, Angular is working on is Angular built on that framework, so that's why we are using that to install it. We are using that framework. So what I just know this much about Node.js. I don't have any expertise in that. All right. All right. All right. Thank you so much. And